You ever get screamed at by someone holding a clipboard like it's a weapon? Let me tell you, nothing wakes you up to the insanity of HOA drama. Quite like having a woman in a coral polo, let's call her Karen. Because of course comes stomping up your driveway, jabbing a finger at your face, and accusing you of stealing land you just spent your whole inheritance on. "You're trespassing!" she shrieked, and I hadn't even finished unloading my truck. My entire $580,000 gone in a single transaction, and now the local homeowners association president was acting like I'd broken into Fort Knox. I felt that surge of anger boiling up until I looked past her and noticed her precious community center was smack in the middle of where my deed said my property line should be. Either I was the world's biggest sucker, or Karen had built her empire on land that was never hers to begin with. Yeah, it gets crazier from here. Buckle up. The moving truck had barely pulled away before the yelling started. There I was, standing on my wraparound porch watching the afternoon sun bounce off the lake, thinking maybe I'd finally done something right for once. This house was a century-old masterpiece, exposed beams, original stone fireplace, that $1 million lake view. I'd sold everything to make this dream happen, and for about 10 minutes it felt like a good decision. Then through the crisp air I hear, Sir, you need to stop what you're doing right now." The voice was pure HOA, sharp, bossy, and getting louder. I turn, and here comes Karen marching across what I thought was my front yard khakis, perfectly creased clipboard clutched to her chest, sunglasses on like she's prepping for a photo op even though the sky's half cloudy. She gets close enough that I can see her HOA badge and the kind of righteous fury you only get from decades of committee meetings and writing angry letters to City Hall. "I'm Karen Morrison, president of Lakeside Estates HOA," she says, "and you are trespassing on community property." I nearly laugh until I realize she's dead serious. "This house and land were donated to the HOA in 1985. You have no legal right to be here." Behind her, there's this perfect little HOA compound, a brick community center, tennis courts, a parking lot that looks like it belongs at Augusta National. All brand new, all clearly theirs. Or so she thinks. "Ma'am," I tell her, trying to stay civil, "there's been a mistake." I pull out my deed, Lake County stamp and all, and hold it up. She doesn't even look at it. "I don't care what papers you have," she says. "That house sits on land that belongs to the community. We've maintained these grounds for nearly 40 years. Now I'm starting to sweat. Something here doesn't add up. My house was built in the 1920s. There are old trees, a stone foundation, all of it way before HOAs were even a thing. So I asked Karen, "Can you show me any documentation for this donation? Because my title search says this land's always been private." That's when her husband Richard shows up, all slick suit and perfect hair, carrying a briefcase that's probably worth more than my car. He gives me a handshake that's a little too firm, then launches right into lawyer mode. "Let's resolve this quickly and quietly, Mr. Hayes. We're prepared to help you recover any money lost in what appears to be a fraudulent real estate transaction." The arrogance was honestly impressive. They're standing on my land holding court like I'm some lost puppy. But Richard's eagerness to wrap this up, that's the first real clue. I tell them the title company did a full search and I'm responsible for property taxes, show them the county email on my phone. Karen's face goes pale. "That's impossible. We're tax exempt as a community organization." "Yeah, for what you own," I say, "but if you don't own this..." The silence gets real awkward. Richard starts stalling, talking about clerical errors and old county records getting mixed up. I'm not having it. I pull out my survey app, and while they're still protesting, I walk out to the big white oak mentioned in my deed and start tracing the lines oak tree stone marker down to the lake, back along the shore. Everything checks out. The old stone boundary marker is still there, 1924 carved into it. And when I finish, it's clear my property doesn't just include the house that runs right through the HOA community center. Karen loses it. "Whatever amateur surveying you think you're doing, it's meaningless. Our community center's been here since 1987. We have permits, plans, records. You said the land was donated in '85, but this building wasn't here until '87, I point out. Who gave you permission to build? She stares at me like I've asked if she needs permission to breathe. Richard jumps in trying to confiscate my deed, calling it fraudulent evidence. I tell him he's not taking anything. He's not the cops. Karen threatens to call the sheriff. Go ahead, I say. Let's get an official witness. Suddenly, neither one of them is so confident. Richard hands my deed back, hands trembling. As the sun sets, I realize Karen just threatened to have me arrested in a building that might be sitting on my land. I stay up half the night digging through county records, turning my dining table into a war room. 15 years of software engineering teaches you how to debug a mess, and right now I'm treating this like the highest stakes code review of my life. I bring in Lena Ortiz, a land use attorney, and Rafi Coleman, a surveyor. We audit the deed calls, overlay the boundaries with satellite images, pull historical maps back to the 1920s. The verdict: I don't just own my house, I own almost everything the HOA's built in 40 years. The community center, tennis courts, even the main parking lot on my legal parcel. The real shocker comes from the county archives. Turns out Robert Thompson, a surveyor who built my place in 1924, kept the land in his family till 1983. Vicki Williams bought it, next paid taxes on all 3.2 acres every single year, right up until she sold it to me. No record of any donation to the HOA. None. So I tracked down Vicky's niece Susan, hoping she'll know if her aunt ever gave away land. She's baffled, says Vicky never donated a thing, used every inch of the place herself, and even put up no trespassing signs. Family photos prove it. Vicky gardening, parking in the HOA lot, holding barbecues where Karen now hosts board meetings. After Vicky got too old to fight the HOA, just moved in. Used her yard, hosted events, acted like they owned the joint. The more I dig, the worse it looks. The HOA's donation never happened. They'd bullied an old woman off her own land, then convinced themselves and everyone else that it was theirs. At the county assessor's office, I get confirmation Vicky paid taxes till the year she died. HOA's exemption only applies to what they legally own, which is nothing here. Jerry Thompson, deputy county clerk, puts it best. Tax exemption follows legal ownership, not the other way around. No deed, no exemption. Now I start talking to neighbors. Bob Patterson walks his dog by the community center every morning, says Karen always told us the previous owners wanted the land for the whole community. We thought it was generous. But when I show him the surveys and tax records, his face falls. You mean we've been using someone else's land all these years? Same thing with every other resident. Nobody's ever seen any real proof. They just trusted Karen because she made things nicer. But then the threats start. Karen calls me voice tight and icy. Mr. Hayes, you need to stop harassing our residents with false property claims. Meet me tomorrow at 10 in the community center to discuss your immediate departure, or we'll pursue every legal remedy. I agree, playing it cool, but inside I'm thinking this is her power play, and she has no idea her office is literally on my land. I show up the next morning, park right where my deed says I'm allowed, walk into the community center. Beautiful building, plaques everywhere, a shrine to suburban pride. Karen's behind her desk, Richard beside her, stacks of legal documents like ammo. She slides me a settlement offer, $50,000, and a waiver to walk away. We'll help you buy elsewhere, Richard purrs. I set it aside, pull out my own pile deed survey maps, tax records. Before we talk, settlement. Do you know where you're sitting? This desk, these windows, even your parking spot, every inch is on my property. Karen turns white. Richard tries to argue. Old surveys are unreliable, but I just tell them to show me a single deed transfer. They can't. Understanding is not ownership, I tell Karen. Permission to use isn't legal title. As we're talking, her phone buzzes. Bob Patterson is asking if it's true we don't own the community center. Word's getting out. Richard checks the survey, grimaces. If this is accurate, the whole building's on land we never owned. Karen's bravado is gone. "What do you want?" she whispers. "Acknowledgement that I have property rights," I say, "and a reasonable plan to fix this." Richard's already talking about outside counsel and insurance. I give them 48 hours to figure it out. And next time maybe come to my house, since technically that's where we are. The power in that room has shifted. Walking out, I see all those plaques and awards, decades of pride built on a lie. It isn't just a legal mess, it's a community built on sand. That night, someone slashes all 4 tires on my Honda, smashes the windshield keys. "Leave now or else" into the hood. Instead of scaring me, it tells me I'm right on target, someone's desperate. The next day, county trucks roll up one after the other, utilities building, health inspectors responding to anonymous complaints. Karen's pulling every lever she's got. By noon, I get a text about Dorothy Miller Robert Thompson's granddaughter who'd helped me with documents. She'd had a fall at her care home. It's not subtle. I rush over, she's bruised but sharp as ever. "They were sending a message," she whispers. Dorothy gives me Robert's original surveying notes, and that's when the scale of this thing explodes. Turns out the family didn't just own 3 acres. They owned 12, stretching past the boat launch, the tennis courts, the whole works. And it's all backed up by official maps and letters from the state in the 1920s, and even a 1958 complaint about people trespassing. There's more recent letters from Richard Morrison's law firm pressuring the family to settle or risk legal action. They never sold a thing. The Morrisons just started using the land, threatened anyone who complained, and convinced everyone else the property had been donated. It was all a house of cards. That night, Emma Taylor, a paralegal, calls me out of the blue. "You're not the only one. There's a whole pattern. Multiple families, same tactics, all around the lake." Now, this isn't just my fight, it's federal. Joe Anderson, a retired FBI agent, reviews the evidence and says it's textbook wire fraud and elder abuse. Helen Johnson from WCVB News brings a camera crew. We get victim families together, start piecing the full story. The Morrisons go nuclear, sending cease and desist. Orders threatening lawsuits, pushing for my house to be demolished for public safety. They try to keep the cameras out, but we broadcast live drone shots of the wrecking ball next to my porch. Original survey maps on TV, Dorothy on camera, her wrist in a cast, telling the world her great-grandfather built that house by hand. The demolition crew stops, refuses to go further with the FBI on site. As the broadcast goes viral, the dominoes fall fast. The Morrisons are arrested, facing wire fraud, conspiracy, elder abuse. Even the county clerk gets indicted for helping falsify documents. The entire community wakes up, emergency HOA meetings, votes to dissolve the old board, create victim compensation funds, return stolen land. The truth finally outshines the lies. My $580, $1,000 is restored, the house title is clean, and the new HOA bylaws require transparency and background checks. In the end, Karen goes to prison, comes out, and actually becomes an advocate for elder rights. Dorothy publishes a book about her family's legacy. The lake community rebuilds honest, transparent, stronger than ever. I marry Emma, and together we turn property rights protection into a calling, helping others avoid this nightmare. You know, justice can take a century, but when it lands, it changes everything. So let me throw this out to you. What would you have done in my shoes? Should a community built on lies get to keep what it's stolen, or does the truth matter more than history, convenience, or comfort? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you've ever had your own HOA nightmare or know someone who has, share your story below. Justice starts with one voice.